Hello, my name's Chris Love. I've been talking to a few people about IronViz this weekend, and so I wanted to just record some themes that are coming up throughout the conversations that I'm having to try and help people understand the way they approach the IronViz qualifier that we're seeing just released in 2020, and also to answer a few questions that people are having as well. So first of all, generally, I wanted to approach the subject of how to select your data. Your data is a very personal thing. I think it's very difficult for me to say what can and can't work as an IronViz data set. So what I would say is that as a starter, take a look through the data sets that are recommended in the Tableau's blog on the qualifier. Those data sets are going to be very approachable. They're going to be very easy to understand. And what I do is just start working through each of those and looking for stories, looking for things that interest you. Look for common stories, open them in Tableau and just drag and drop and see what jumps out at you. Is there anything that really makes you think? Is there anything that's interesting? Is there anything that talks to you about other things that you're interested in, that you really think you can spend 2 or 3 weeks visualizing? Because this is going to take a fair amount of your time until you hand in your final piece of work for the IronViz qualifier. Once you've got that, then I think if it's something personal that works for you, that you believe in, that you find interesting, I think it's going to be a lot more, a lot better for you to work through. It's going to be something that you can believe in, work through, and build out over the coming weeks. If you can't find anything in those data sets, then consider using a data set from another aspect of health and well-being that you personally find interesting. So think of subjects. It might be your personal running data. It might be elements of kind of work that you've done in the past around different health issues or well-being issues, things that interest you or have affected your life. Again, finding something that's personal to you, and then you can search out those data sets and work on something for those. I find approaching IronViz, once I've got a data set that I'm interested in and have the semblance of a story, what I'd recommend people do is just sit down and open up 10 or 20 charts, just drag pills around in Tableau, try and build out some interesting stories. Don't worry too much about what those charts tell you at the moment. Just drag and drop and see what comes out. And once you've built out those 20 charts, go through them and turn them into almost a storyboard. So start thinking about what might come at the start of a story on the subject. Where might you go? How might you start to tell that story out, to approach a middle, and how might you bring it to a conclusion at the end? Once you've got those pieces, you might have just 1 or 2 charts that really tell a really powerful story across maybe a number of dimensions. Or you might have lots of smaller charts that you can piece together into a long form dashboard with text to help tell that story. So once you've built out that storyboard, it's going to be a lot better for you then to approach after you've done that work, then approach that into building out something final that you can then polish. And so that's typically my approach of working through how to build an IronViz from start to end. So build out the stories, turn them into a storyboard, whittle them down into a few charts that tell your story, and then build them out, make them presentable, then polish. Finally, I've been asked a lot about what the judges find interest, what the judges will be looking for. What will they be marking on? And there's 3 categories that IronViz has. There's design, storytelling, and analysis. And so what I want to do is just pick out a couple of the recent qualifier winners and talk about what the judges might be looking for when they approach those stories. So let me share my screen. So first on design. Design is something that you can spend a lot of time with IronViz. So It's very important to know what the judges will be looking for so that you get it right immediately. Now, design doesn't necessarily mean very complex charts. In fact, it can mean the opposite. It doesn't mean taking a simple story and making it very complex. It means trying to get your design to work with the story. So in Lindsay's visualization here for the music qualifier last year, you can see that Lindsay just makes some very simple design choices. It's a white visualization. The colors go from blue to yellow, and that theme is repeated all the way through her visualization. Some very simple color choices that are then worked through the whole of the visualization. The text is very clean. It's relatively compact. There's some well-styled annotations that really hold the whole visualization together and explain it. From a storytelling aspect, Lindsay has chosen to just use a few charts to build through this visualization and then tell the story of each track in each musical, telling the story of the valence of the tracks. And you can see that she's just put that together in this small multiple style, common elements, and that really tells the story of all these musicals. It's a very effective way of telling the story because she starts off explaining what she's going to do, the average scores, and then breaks them down into a lot of detail. From an analysis point of view, this really does the job of taking a complex story about the valence, that emotional connectivity, how positive, negative a musical is, really breaks that down, starting at a very average level and then breaking it down into much more detailed track by track analysis. Hesham, in his IronViz qualifier on migration, takes a very different approach. So if we just scroll through his visualization, let's start at the top, we see that Hesham's choices around design to start with are, again, very deliberate. And I think that's something that I can pick out across all the elements of a visualization that is going to do well in IronViz. All the design choices are very deliberately made. So Hesham has chosen to use black text, black charts, and just pick out the red in some very important places. You can see the use of red just here and here. And he picks out the lines he wants you to focus on just here. Some very simple charts broken down into chapters with text in between. He never strays away from this style of red on black. It's all very deliberate with a great use of white space to tell that story as well. Hesham's storytelling approach has been to use text and a long form dashboard to explain what he does in chapters, introduce the subject, and then illustrate that with some data and a chart. And that can be really very effective. It's a way that lots of people choose to do that storytelling. It isn't the only way of doing it. So you don't have to put lots of text into your IronViz, as Lindsay's entry showed. But if you do choose to break down and tell a story with text, then that's something we've seen consistently do well in IronViz. Lastly, the analysis piece. Obviously, Hesham has chosen to take a story about the global journey of refugees, something that's inherently complex, and breaks it down into a number of points. Breaking it down and telling us as he goes through. So again, taking that complex subject and turn it into simple things that we can understand and drill through. So to close up, you know, I think try and make your visualizations as clean and easily designed as possible. Make very deliberate storytelling choices, and then finish with good analysis that takes a complex story and turns it into simple choices. So I'm going to close up now. You can hear the background noise behind me. My family's in. So thanks for listening, and I'm going to close that. If you do have any more questions on IronViz, then please don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you.